for us to begin to look at the future and know that it's possible that we can have our dream. Yes, it is. Other people have done it, then we can do it. We fail a lot of times. Well, a lot of other folks failed, and eventually they came back and they succeeded. So it's possible we can have what we want. And we know that we want to get it. It's necessary that we align ourselves with people that think like we do. It's necessary we get negative, do-nothing people out of our lives. It's necessary we never stop learning and growing and developing ourselves. It's necessary that we never give up. We know that it's you, it's me. It's being responsible for our stuff and deciding that we're going to keep on keeping on, that we're going to find a way to win or find a way to make it happen. And we know it's hard. It's not going to be a picnic. Yes, it's hard. It's hard. And we will do it hard. And once we do it hard and we go through it, we realize it was worth it. And once you discover it was worth it, it is done. It's done. It's done, ladies and gentlemen, before it happens. Well, here's what I'm suggesting to you. That when you're working, you have a wall to break through. Let's say a friend of mine who runs a marathon, and he says, when he's running the 26-mile marathon, he said, let's say that hypothetically, that 18th mile is the wall. He said, Les, when you get there and you're running, he says, everything in you is telling you to stop, to give up. Every muscle is aching. And you're saying to yourself, I can't do it. I can't do it. And you just keep on and you keep on and you keep on. It seems like you're moving at slow motion. And then eventually when you break through that 18-mile wall, then you know it's like done and you're on automatic and you glide on in and you know it's there. You know you're going to get to the finish line. And we've all had experiences where we were working on something and we knew it was possible. And we did those things that were necessary to bring it into reality. We took the responsibility to make it happen. Other people couldn't see it. A lot of people didn't believe it. You were attacked. You were criticized. People were opposing you, but you kept on doing it. It was hard. It was rough. It was difficult. But to you, it was worth it. And eventually you got to a level you know, can nothing stop me now. I'm on the move. I'm on the move. Finally, I'm thinking about a friend of mine who is no longer operating on this dimension. His name was Jack Boland. He had this vision of a church that would serve various types of needs for people, their supportive needs and helping them in recovery from drugs and alcohol and whatever addictions that they might be involved in. And he was known for bringing in different kinds of speakers. And over a year ago, he was diagnosed as having cancer, and he announced to his congregation that he's going to be taking chemotherapy and that it was a possibility that the cancer would go in remission, and he was optimistic about that. And sure enough, it did for a year. And one of the things Jack always talked about is that he wanted to have his funeral while he lived. And so he invited a few friends, Wayne Dyer, myself, and a few other speakers. He didn't tell us why we were there, but once we gathered there, the church, they told us in the room that Jack is going to announce to the congregation, he's bringing his doctor up. The doctor is going to say that we felt we could keep it in remission. It's out of remission, and he doesn't have much time left. And whatever words you want to say to Jack that you would say if he had made his transition, speak those words now. Well, we were shocked and we were somewhat stunned until Jack got there. They brought him in a wheelchair, and boy, was he courageous, and he had a strong smile, and they helped him up the steps, and he sat behind the podium, and each of us got up and we said a few things about Jack and the impact that he made on our lives. And he said, the doctor, after announcing that Jack didn't have long, he says, doctor, he said, I accept what you say, but it's possible that does not have to be the case. But if it is, I will enjoy life to the very last breath I take, even the chemotherapy. I will enjoy that. And Jack did, ladies and gentlemen. And when they said that all of his vital organs were failing, they called his family and his close church staff to the hospital. and said, he's dying. And so they came and they all gathered in the room. And Jack at that time was unconscious. And he gained consciousness. And he looked at them and he said, with what strength he had, he said, I want to thank you all for being here. You've been a great staff to me. He looked at his sons, his daughter. He said, you've been a great family. He said, don't feel sorry for me. He said, I'm ready to go. I'm looking forward to the next adventure. And he sat there for a little while, laid there, and he closed his eyes, and he lost consciousness. About an hour and a half later, he opened his eyes, and he looked at them, and he said, this is embarrassing. I'm not dead yet. They were laughing through their tears. They said, Jack, you are a character. He said, hey, I hate giving up this kind of control. So they predicted that Jack would die at the end of February. And then on the 2nd, they said, he won't see the light of day. He will be dead by morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack died on March 4th. And we believe that even in his dying, Jack sent his congregation a message that I want to give to you with his permission. March 4th is the day he died, and we believe Jack was saying, March 4th. So I say, as you look into the future, while other people are giving up, feeling like victims, feeling powerless, becoming negative, turning on each other rather than to each other, feeling that they can't make it, be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind with the mindset of that it's possible that we can save this generation. It's possible that we can create new industries, a new economy. It's possible that I can find a new profession, a new job. It's possible I can create a new life. And it's necessary that I become actively involved in becoming a positive force in my life and on the planet. And it's me, yes, it's you, it's all of us, pulling together, working together to create this brand new future. And it's going to be hard. Easy is not an option. But if it's hard, we will do it hard. Whatever is required to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. And it's worth it, yes. It's worth whatever we have to do. And once we know that, it is done. It is done. It is done. It is done.
Everybody can transform a kind of inconvenience in a huge advantage.
Without any question, and it takes work. Now, there's no question that there are certain situations and structures around the world that don't allow people to dream. You know, I'm doing some work in South Africa right now, Johannesburg, and my first step is to help people to learn how to dream, because they were under apartheid, a form of enslavement that did not make dreaming possible. And there are other places around the world that just like that right now. That's destroying people's dreams. And I think that's why we see such global upheaval in terms of many dictatorships, because people are becoming more enlightened. In 2007, Time magazine recognized the computer of the person of the year. And the reason it did, because it gives everyday people access to information that they never had before. And so now people, with that access of information, becoming more enlightened, and it's causing a great deal of disturbance with various types of governments around the world.
It's huge. My message in France, and I would like to spread that everywhere, it's you have a dream, it's possible, so take an action now. How can I help people to believe it's possible?
It's an ongoing process. The faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. That's what my favorite book says. That you have to be an unreasonable person who's not looking at and judging the circumstances such as you see them. But you're calling forth those things that be not as though they were. And if you read the book called Change or Die by David Dushman,
I will do.
He said there's a person who is an unreasonable person who brings a message that it's possible and repeat that message. And there are people who hear that message who are able to relate to it and identify with it. And then they begin to move from and develop a whole approach to life with that new level of enlightenment, that as he speaks or she speaks, it begin to give people a vision of themselves beyond their circumstances and their mental conditioning, and challenging them to begin to embrace some habits that cause them to make some new choices that will help them to carve out and become the architect of their future, as opposed to becoming volunteer victims.
Great. You do a lot of speeches all around the world, and you are not the only speaker. A lot of speakers. So, according to you,
I'm a trainer. I'm known as a speaker, but my gifting is I started out as a trainer, teaching people how to live their dreams, teaching them how to use their voice and their story and leverage their knowledge to go from being local to being global. That's what my gifting is in.
So as a trainer, why there are some speaker or trainer who give only a kind of information, at the end you say, oh, it's interesting, and other speakers like you, according to me, and you feel something and you're not thinking about, oh, it's interesting, but I can do that. I want to take an action. I want to change something in my life. I don't know if it was interesting, but I will change something in my life. What are the differences?
Well, there are many speakers think that people are stuck because of lack of information. I always say, if information could change people, everybody would be skinny, rich, and happy. They don't need us to come in and speak. They can go online, they can Google the information. So information alone cannot create transformation. That in order to change human behavior, you have to create a significant emotional event. The materials that I provide, the training that I provide, is designed to impact a person's mind, their heart, and their spirit. And so the goal is to distract, dispute, and inspire, to interrupt their story. How people live their lives is a result of the story they believe about themselves. So when I'm training speakers, I teach them how to become a strategic, experiential storyteller. Be strategic on how they use their story. You never make a point without a story, and you never tell a story without a point. And experiential, because Oliver Wendell Holmes said that once a man or woman's mind has been expanded with an idea, concept, or experience, it can never be satisfied to going back to where it was. And so when you take that approach to change how they think and what they feel, then you now have positioned yourself to begin to create a thirst. There's no saying you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. You create a thirst where they want to drink, where they want to change. And now you have, because of their encounter with you, you have now allowed yourself to be an instrument, as Mother Teresa would say, in the hand of God. And now that person will begin to write a new chapter with their lives. So it's about how do we change the story that people believe about themselves that's been given to them by life, given to them by their circumstances. We learn between ages 0 and 5 what's available for us and what's not available for us. And based upon those experiences and the people around us in our environment, a word formulates in our mind. It's either yes or it's no. A word formulates in our heart. It's either yes or no. It formulates in our spirit, yes or no. And there's various things that can impact the formulation of that word and the conviction behind it and how we move our lives forward. My goal, if the word is no, is to interrupt that word and to change it to a very affirmative yes.
It's great. I love that. How to have a strong will? Because a lot of speakers are speaking about you have to have will, but how?
Will is, that's why I talk about the mind, the heart, and the spirit. The reason we celebrate Nelson Mandela is that for 26 years, they tried to control his mind. They were able to control his body. but most importantly, they couldn't break his spirit. And so that deep down resolve, that dimension that's available to all of us was explained to us in the book called Man's Search for Meaning, that Viktor Frankl, that there's a part of us that's always a part of us that's in our hands, that the irreducible essence of who you are, that either you say yes or no, not based upon the circumstances, not based upon the pressure that's applied, but based upon your conviction. Are you going to give this the power to take advantage of you? Are you going to turn yourself over to this? We always have that choice. That's the greatest choice that human beings have. Am I going to give myself a pass to surrender, or am I going to stand up? I remember telling a story when I produced my first PBS special on public television of a man who came by a house and there were people on the porch talking, and there was a dog moaning and groaning. The guy was curious, and he went back and he asked the owner, "Why is this dog moaning and groaning?" And the owner said, "Because he's lying on a nail." The guy said, "Well, why won't he just get off?" He said, "Because it's not hurting bad enough for him to get off. It's just hurting bad enough for him to moan and groan." And so what most people do in life, they have the power to change their circumstances. You are made in the likeness and image of God. You've been given authority and dominion over everything on the face of the earth. But most people would rather moan and groan about their situation, show up in their lives as volunteer victims, rather than become actively engaged in doing the work necessary to change their circumstances. It's been said there are two types of people, those who work and those who watch them. So you got to be willing to do your internal work so that you have the mental resiliency, and your external work finds something that you want to master that will allow you to move yourself forward.
Wow. So we have to, the first step is to find what we want to master.
Why are you here? What's your reason for being? Why do you get up in the morning? Most people don't have a clue. Pay the bills, to keep a roof over your head. I think we have to reflect on, who am I? Why am I here? What drives me? If I died today, what 3 words would I want said about me if I died today? You know, what is it that defines me? You know, and how do I define myself? Most people allow their circumstances to define them, as opposed to defining themselves and how they're going to show up in life. And so my mission is to help people to connect with the power they have within, their greatness. When you're pursuing your greatness, you don't know what your limits are, so you act like you don't have any. And when you live from that place, you can now be able to make a greater contribution and make a greater impact with your life, because of the fact that you see yourself in a larger context. One of the principles, there are 9 principles that we teach of greatness. The first one is, each of us can achieve far beyond our horizons and in avenues of life we have never explored. But most people settle in and accept things in life as it has been given to them, as opposed to rising above that, working to create something that they can feel good about.
It's the first person principle.
Yes.
What are the next?
The next one is, we must take responsibility for our actions and our reactions. When you look at your circumstances, you know, George Bernard Shaw said, the people look for the things that they want in life, and if they can't find them, they create them. And so when we look at ourselves, it's about doing that. It's about taking ownership for your stuff, for your life. And one of the things I emphasize, that changing is not easy. That changing your life, changing habits, reinventing yourself, picking yourself up after life has knocked you flat on your back. I've got to say, when life knocked you down, try and land on your back, because if you could look up, you could get up. Well, that sounds cute, but that's not easy. When I was diagnosed with prostate cancer 17 years ago, that first time that happened, I said, hey, I can handle this. Then when it came back a year later, last year, 17 years later, and this time, it metastasized to 7 areas of my body and ate 40% of my T1 vertebrae. Now the stakes are higher. It's this life saying, okay, Mr. Motivator, You beat cancer the first time. What you gonna do now? I started laughing. When the doctor told me, he said, why are you laughing? Are you in denial? I said, no. I said, I feel like Mother Teresa. He said, what do you mean? She said, Lord,
Wow.
I know you know how much I can bear. I just wish you to have so much confidence in me. I said, the stakes are higher. So I've got to dig in and got to fight more, because at the end of the day, life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over. And so it's a fight, it's a challenge in life every day. And what we have to do is embrace it. What we have to do is see it as a project to be worked on. I read something once that I live by. It said, in life, you will always be faced with a series of God-ordained opportunities, brilliantly disguised as problems and challenges. And so I see even cancer as a gift, as a God-ordained opportunity.
It is a kind of test for you to improve
It's a
yourself.
test, right? No test, no testimony. Yes.
Wow.
And so you have to be willing to step up and handle it. Anybody can have faith, David. If the bills are paid, if they have their health, the marriage is working out fine, the children acting like they have good sense, they have a lot of money in the bank, a lot
Everything
of
is perfect.
investment. Anybody can have faith under those circumstances. The true challenge of faith is when life knocks on the door. The true challenge when you lose your health, or something happens to someone you care about, or you lose your wealth, or some tragedy happens to you. All of us over the next year will experience at least 3 tragedies. We will experience it personally or someone we care about. Charles Udall said in life, he said, things will happen around you and things will happen to you. But the only things that really count are the things that happen in you. And that's where,
Wow, I love
that's
that.
our domain. That's where we have the control.
Yeah, we choose the answer.
Yes, we did too, and we choose how we're going to respond to this. Will I allow this to get the best of me? Will I allow this to stop me? Am I going to surrender to this? Will I give myself a pass? Will I wimp out on myself? That's always a choice.
I love that. In the speech just before you said a sentence that I love, can you repeat it about the fact that when it's hard?
If you do what is easy,
Yeah, I love that.
giving yourself a pass, giving yourself permission to stop. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. I didn't do what I'm doing now for 14 years because it was hard to make the radical change in my approach, my dress, my learning the language of corporate America, gaining access, developing myself an intellectual resource where corporations would reach over people with years of experience, PhDs and MBAs, and I have no experience and no credentials, and be able to compete with them. It was hard, but we can do hard. All of us have moments in our lives when things have been thrust upon us and we had to do hard. So if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. And so don't give yourself a pass. Don't run away from hard, because you can do hard. And through that, you discover a part of yourself that you would not know otherwise.
Yeah, you are building your power when you have challenges and when it's hard.
Yes, those things only happen through growth experiences, through challenges. If you go to the gym to work out and you don't feel any discomfort the next day, here's what we know: you haven't done anything. And so you got to challenge yourself. And you're going to get hurt. You know, Viktor Frankl calls it unavoidable suffering. Life is full of pain and disappointment. It's a part of the process.
And we are proud of ourselves when we overcome something.
When we overcome things, we discover things about ourselves. No tests, no testimony. No guts, no glory.
Yeah.
And I was doing a broadcast once, and a guy was coming up and he had crutches. He was coming up to be interviewed by me, and he missed a step and he fell. It was a very embarrassing moment. And I went down to help him get up, and he said, "Don't feel sorry for me or be embarrassed." He said, "It goes with being a paraplegic. I fall all the time." And so we fall all the time in life. We make mistakes all the time in life.
Yeah.
You know, there's no life without mistakes. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing badly. It's worth doing right if you know how to do it. But if you don't know how to do it, it's worth doing badly until you get it right. All of us are going to follow some tough times. 8 out of 10 millionaires have had to file bankruptcy. It's a part of the process. You go up, you go down. And we learn things during the tough times. That's where we really learn things. That's where we begin to discover things about ourselves. Adversity introduces you to yourself, that are part of yourself that you would never know otherwise when things are going real good for you. And so what we have to help people to understand is to maintain a spirit of optimism in spite of their circumstances, to give them hope. Why? Because when there's hope in the future, that gives you power in the present. So my goal is training 100,000 voices of hope who will do 3 things. Help give people hope. That's number 1. Number 2, teach them methods that will help them to develop the desire to reinvent themselves so that they are not replaced by an app or outsourcing, because this is a time where you have to continuously reinvent yourself to stay ahead of technology and cheap labor around the world.
Say, Mr. Brown, I've done all that I can do for you. You've got to go out and face the music. You go with the things I've taught you and make it happen. I went to WMBM radio station on Miami Beach. Milton Butterball Smith is the program director. Hello, Mr. Butterball. My name is Les Brown, sir. I'd like to be a disc jockey. He said, young man, you have any journalism in your background? No, sir, I don't. You have any experience in broadcasting? No, sir, I don't, but I practice every day. Let me audition for you. Let me show you how good I am. He says, no, we don't have any job for you. How many have been rejected? Raise your hands, please. I was devastated with rejection. I went back, Mr. Washington. I said, Mr. Washington. They said no. He said, don't take it personally. Most people are so negative, they have to say no 7 times before they say yes. He said, you gotta be hungry. Go back again. I said, yes, sir. I went back again. Hello, Mr. Butterball. How are you, sir? My name is Les Brown, sir. I'd like to be a disc jockey. He said, I know what your name is. Weren't you here yesterday? Yes, sir. Didn't I tell you no yesterday? Yes, sir. He said, then why are you back today? I said, well, sir, I didn't know whether or not somebody was laid off or somebody was fired, sir. Don't want to laid off or fired. Now get on out of here. I came back the next day, talking loud, looking happy, like I was singing for the first time. I said, hello, Mr. Butterball. How are you? My name is Les Brown, sir. I'd like to be a disc jockey. He said, I know what your name is. Weren't you here the last 2 days? I said, yes, sir. Didn't I tell you no the last 2 days? I said, yes, sir. He said, then why are you back today? I said, sir, I didn't know whether or not someone got sick or someone died, sir. He said, no one got sick or died. No one was laid off or fired. Now don't you come back here again. I came back the next day, talking loud, looking happy, like I was singing for the first time. I said, hello, Mr. Butterball with rage. He said, go get me some coffee. I said, yes, sir. My favorite book said, the greatest among you will be your servant. So I became the errand boy for the disc jockeys. I was serving them. I'd go get their lunch and their dinner, and I'd come into the control room, watching them working the control room knobs and switches, knowing my time will come. Let us say together, my time will come, when I'll be a top producer, and when I'll come up on stage, they call my name because of my accomplishment. My time will come because I'm going to put forth the effort. And so on the weekends when the disc jockeys would come out to the parking lot, the cars would be clean inside out. They said, hey, who did this? I did, sir. How much do you charge, young man? Oh, nothing, sir. I just wanted to help out. Write this down. Build relationships. Build relationships. Give before you ask people to come into your business. Find some way to compliment them. Talk to them, ask them questions. Find out what's important to them, what's stressing them out, what keeps them up at night, what drives them, what they value. Don't advance with the business.
people do business with people they know, like, and trust. That's why you want to tell the story and ask key questions. You want to be strategic and experiential. Write this down. You have an energy signature. People are feeling you out. They're listening to you. They're watching you. And so, he said, look, here are my car keys, young man. Diana Ross and the Supremes are coming to town, the Four Tops and the Temptations. I want you to pick them up at the airport and take them to the Fontainebleau Hotel on Miami Beach. It is my pleasure to serve you, sir. I would drive these entertainers all over Miami Beach in the disc jockeys' big long Cadillacs. I didn't have any driver's license, but I'll drive it like I had some. Then one day, it's a Saturday afternoon. A disc jockey by the name of Rockin' Roger was drinking while he was on the air. Rockin' Roger got so drunk, he could not complete the show. He began to slur his words. He's about to fall off the chair. It's a Saturday afternoon, and I was the only one there, looking at him through the control room window, walking back and forth, young, ready, and hungry. I was saying, drink, rock, drink. Drink, rock. I'd have gone and get him some more if he'd asked me to. Then pretty soon the phone rang. It was a general manager. I said, hello? He said, young boy, this is Mr. Clyde. I said, I know. He said, Rock can't finish the program. I said, I know. He said, will you call one of the other DJs in? I said, yes, sir. I hung the phone up and said, now he must think I'm crazy. I called my mama and my girlfriend, Cassandra. I said, y'all come out on the front porch, turn up the radio. I'm about to come on the air. I waited for about 20 minutes and I called him back. I said, Mr. Klein, I can't find nobody. He said, young boy, you know how to work the controls? I said, yes, sir. He said, go in there and segue the records, but don't you say nothing here. I said, yes, sir. I couldn't wait to get old Rock out of the way. I put on a fast record. I said, look out, this is me, LB, Triple P. Les Brown, your platter playing papa. There were none before me, and there will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only. Young and single and love to mingle. Certified, bona fide, duly qualified to bring you satisfaction and a whole lot of action. Look out, baby, I'm your love man. I was hungry. Give the old man a round of applause. I was hungry. I was hungry. I was hungry. You gotta be hungry. Shake someone's hand on your right and left and say, you gotta be hungry. Do that right now. Shake somebody else's hand. Say, you gotta be hungry.
Where do we go to get that energy we need and that to keep our focus and to keep our drive?
Whenever you're moving from one level to the other and you have to reinvent yourself, the adjustment, it's very, very difficult. It's very, very challenging. And I think that you need to begin to remind yourself of your why. You know, Nietzsche said, if you know the why for living, if you know why you're doing something, it will empower you to endure anything that you're going through. When you're working in corporations, you're working in financial services, it's a very competitive area. It's very, very dynamic. This is the era that Peter Drucker calls the era of the 3 C's: accelerated change, overwhelming complexity, and tremendous competition. And so people are tensed and very, very stressed out. So how do you deal with that? And knowing why you do what it is that you do. The name of the game right now is perceptual and psychological. It's the mental adjustments that we must make in the midst of the difficulties. That's what leaders do. Leaders don't panic. They're not intimidated by the change. They're not intimidated by the difficulties. What they are empowered by it. I remember reading something that says, not what you don't have is what you think you need that keeps you from handling the difficulties and the challenges of life. That we have everything we need within us to face and to deal with whatever we have at hand, because we're more powerful than anything that we're up against.
Now, these mental adjustments and this idea that I've got what I need, I mean, in some ways that represents who I am.
For many years, I was living a life that I was not designed to do. I'm designed to speak. That's what I do. But for 42 years, I'm 62 now, for 42 years, I was doing something I wasn't designed to do, because when I looked at what I wanted to do, that was to speak, to train, to empower people, that my inner conversation to myself was, Les Brown, you can't do that. You were labeled educable mental retarded in the 5th grade. You have no college training. You were born in an abandoned building on a floor. You don't even know your birth parents. You can't do that. You are DT. You were called the dumb twin. Those words became my reality for many years. And then someone came along and interrupted that conversation in my head and said, Mr. Brown, they tell me you're about to drop out of school. And I said, well, yes. Why? I can't, I'm not smart like my brother. And I'll never forget when we first met, I was in his class waiting on another student, and he came in and said, young man, go to this board and work this problem out for me. I said, sir, I can't do that. I'm not one of your students. He said, it doesn't matter. Follow my directions anyhow. And I said, I can't, sir. And he said, why? I said, sir, because I'm educable mentally retarded. He said, don't you ever say that again. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. So now this man changed how I saw myself. When I saw myself as the dumb twin, and that was the conversation in my head, that was given to me, that's what I believed, I accepted that. So the things that I was up against academically, they began to appear not as difficult as I thought they were, because now he empowered me. Before then, right before then, up to that point, the things that were placed before me, I would stumble, I would slow the class down, because I was convinced that I was dumb. I believed what they said to me. This guy came along and he changed my perception of myself. Someone said that people don't live life as it is, they live life as they are. And so what we have to do as leaders, I don't care where you are in customer service, managing people, that you have to do during the tough times, you have to bring the best out of you.
How do you move forward through the challenges of your life when, sometimes they come one after another? Like, there are a lot of people who are having a problem just getting focused on a daily basis, believing that they are the one, spending so much time trapped within a psychology of impossibility. And then life comes along and is readily willing to support you in the impossibility. Like, you've had a lot of challenges in your life. Like, were there times you got stuck in them, or is there something that you've done just to keep moving forward? How do you keep getting back up?
Focus on the challenges. Focus on where you're going. Keep it moving. I remember when I lost the first home that I bought for my mother because I didn't do a title search. And I'll never forget when I was standing behind the truck, unloading the truck, and I was crying. The neighbors were looking out and said, Mamie, y'all back? Yes, Leslie didn't do a title search and we were foreclosed on, and our furniture was set outside. And my mother came to the back of the truck, and I was thinking about, here I am, back here in this home that I took her out of, back here in this rat and roach infested house. And that's all I can think about. And look at people looking at me. This is so humiliating. And my mother taught me a lesson. She said, boy, why are you crying? I said, Mama, I feel so stupid. I let you down. I feel so stupid. I wanted to make you proud of me. I wanted to buy your home. I made a mistake. And she said, Leslie? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, hold your head, boy, up. Hold your head up. And she said, we still have each other. Now, that was major. Because as opposed to focusing on the foreclosure and our furniture being set out and the humiliation of being in the neighborhood, people coming out looking, Mamie, y'all back? I focus on, we still have each other. And that's all I focus on. We still have each other. And I focused on that, and that was the fuel that empowered me to get another house for us within 60 days. But had I focused on what we lost, Helen Keller said, in life, that many people, when one door closes, another door opens. But most of us spend time looking back, complaining about the closed door. We don't see the open door. That was a new opportunity for me to use my talents, my abilities, my skills. I learned some things that I did not know the first time. I learned from that, and I was able to get another house, a larger house, but most importantly, I focused on what was most important. I was still with my mother. I was not having a dirt nap. She was still here. We had each other. That was most important. We went in the house, the rats and roaches were playing cards. And oh, Mamie's back. Oh, we about to have sweet potato pie up in here. Welcome back, guys.
Mr. Brown, you've had to overcome so many different challenges in your life as a father, a husband, someone who's gone through divorce, someone who's lost their job, someone who's faced so many obstacles, and you could have easily given in to excuses. You could have easily bought into all of the self-imposed limiting talk that so many people find themselves up against. Where did you get the will to? I hear you talk about willingness. Where did you get the will to continue to overcome, stay focused on your dreams and your goals, and to make things happen for those that are listening that are in that place right now?
I'm so glad you asked that question. One of my favorite books is Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. And he said he was in the Nazi German concentration camps. He said the Jews that survived the inexpressible cruelties of Nazism had some power greater than themselves that they believed in, or some movement that they bought into, or some family member that they were determined to see again. And what it boiled down to, he said, if you know the why for living, you can endure almost anyhow. If you got a reason that drives you. My reason was I had made a commitment. I was going to buy my mother a home. And nothing was going to turn me around. I was going to make that happen. That was not some wish. My brothers and sisters, they didn't share it. They thought I was crazy. But that became my reason for being. I faced a lot of rejections. And I just saw it as a part of the process, that you have to roll with the punches. Because I was in this place with Paul Robeson, who said, "Here I stand, for I can do no other." And I was determined that I was going to find a way through speaking to earn enough money that I'd be available to my mother to take care of her, who was suffering from breast cancer. I promised her when I was a kid, I said, "You'll never go into a nursing home." She used to work in nursing homes, and she always said she never wanted to go into a nursing home. I said, "I promise you, that will not be your destiny." And when my sister called me and said, "Leslie, are you sitting down?" I asked, "What's wrong with Mama?" I just got reelected to the Ohio legislature, and they had appointed me to the chairmanship of the Education Committee and the Human Resource Committee. And she said, "Mama has breast cancer." I say, "I'll be there tomorrow." She said, "But you just got elected." I said, "Listen to me. I enjoy politics, but I love Mama." And I promised her I'll be there. And she said, "Leslie, they have a lot of good nursing homes in Dade County." I say, "Please, don't touch her. I'll be there tomorrow. I caught a plane the next morning, and I'll never forget ringing the doorbell. And a friend of hers, named Miss Mildred, was there. And she came to the door and she said, "Oh my God, Mamie, Leslie's here." And I could hear my mother say, "I knew he would come. I knew he would come." Mildred, unpacked those boxes. He's here. I knew he would come. You have to have something that drives you when others give up and surrender and throw in the towel. Something that can cause you to reach a place within yourself where you say, "I don't feel nowhere's tired. I'm gonna get it done." That makes you unstoppable. I was there. I took care of her until she left here. Brought her home. Got to find something that pulls you into the future. It's a stand that you decide to take with your life.
And Matt Zapala, like Mr. Brown, you went through some challenges. You've been very transparent, talking about being a husband, a father, and then a single father within a very short period of time. And many people that are dealing with children will often use the children as an excuse as to why they can't get things done and do the work that's required to provide. So you coming from the military, not having any experience with generating significant life-changing income, where did you get the will to say, yes, I'm going to get this done, even though I have kids that I'm responsible for as a single parent? I got to figure it out. Where does that will to come from?
Came from my parents. Came from my parents immigrating here from the Philippines, and just hearing stories about what it took for my mother to get her first job as a nurse at a hospital, $600 a month as a nurse. And then my father coming here because he was a tour guide in the Philippines, and he just basically sold himself on a free airplane ride in America and get himself into Indiana University. And I thought to myself that every generation has its great decision. And I felt my decision said, you know what? I've got this gift of entrepreneurship. I've got this gift of an insurance license. I have no college degree. I have no other alternatives. And I get these 3 miles looking at me, and they're looking for me to come home and provide a home and activities and cheerleading and martial arts and all that, football and all this stuff that any other kid would want to enjoy. But I know I couldn't depend on anybody else, because as a single father, I had to do all that. I had to put myself in a position where I had no other options but to. Because what was my alternative? My alternative was to have the other party in the life and not have control or the access that I'm able to provide myself, having to divvy up decisions. And as a single parent, you have to make those decisions twice, 3 times as hard, because there is no other financial assistance from the other side. I mean, I was one of those weird single fathers where I actually had custody of my kids. And if I'm looking at them and they're expecting everything from me and they didn't expect to be here, my decision with them was, listen, you don't owe me anything, I owe you everything. At least at the very extent of showing you an example of what to do during tough times and showing you and giving you a work ethic. And so when I'm looking at this and I decide to put a flag in the ground, I want to be able to say, I want my kids to say, you know what, I may not agree with everything that Daddy did, but man, I respect him. I respect his hustle, I respect the grind. And I found that the older they've become, the smarter I've become to them. And so we may not have times when they were teenagers or in their late teens and early 20s, but now as it's starting to get older, now they're starting to understanding the perspective of where I came from. So that was the future self I was talking about. What would these kids say? They may not agree with me, but man, my dad is somebody I want to follow. His footsteps may not be necessarily, or his career may not be the career, but man, I want to follow the way he went about business, the way he went about making decisions in his life. And I want to be able to them to say, my daddy gave me a great last name. Now it's up for me not to screw it up.